What's going on, people? Hope you're good. Welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create the bass sound from our new track, Future, which sounds like this. And the bass sound on its own sounds like this. So as you can hear, it's sort of a Neuro Drum and Bass type sound, you know, sort of reminiscent of some Noisier or Joe Ford or that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is turn everything off, turn all the processing off, talk you through it step by step how I made it. So this sound is made in Serum, and just the sort of pure Serum sound sounds like this. So as you can hear, a lot of the sort of character is coming directly out of Serum. You could just use this sound on its own, like this, if you wanted to. There's a bit of extra post-processing, which I'll talk you through in a minute. So the sort of core of this sound is a Reese Bass. Now, if you're not sure what a Reese Bass is, it's that old sort of classic drum and bass sound that you would find really common in sort of 90s and early 2000s drum and bass. That sort of sound sounds like this. You're probably used to hearing that. Now what that is where you get a saw wave and you create multiple versions or multiple voices of that saw wave, and then you detune them against each other. Now to do that in Serum, there's this unison amount, which is the number of voices. Then you've got the detune next to it, which is how much do you want those voices to be detuned. And then you've got the blend, which is the volume of the individual voices. So I've got this set all the way up to 16 voices. Now this oscillator on its own sounds like this, which doesn't sound like a normal Reese, and that's because I've got these two parameters here set all the way to the left.
Right foot to the left foot to the left, real smooth.
What these do is these are determining what happens every time you press a key. So every time you press a new note, what's going to happen to this sound? If you have the random turned up, what it's going to do is every time you press a sound, it'll choose a new point in the waveform to start, which isn't necessarily what you want, because you might end up with a different sound each time. What we want is we want the sound to be consistent. We want it to be the same every single time you press a note. So we make sure that the phase is all the way to the left and the random is all the way to the left.
To the left.
Now also, there's another oscillator in this patch, but it's turned all the way down, so you can't hear it. The main purpose of this oscillator is to FM the first one. So to do that in Serum, you go to this sort of section here, click the drop down and choose FM from B. And then this amount is how much that second oscillator is affecting the first one. This second oscillator also is pitched up by an octave and has 9 voices that are all detuned slightly against each other. They're not super detuned. If you go too far with this, it can get really messy. It can sound like this.
Hell no.
That's kind of the main gist of the sound, right? The sort of vast majority is coming from this FM. Now you will also see that on this FM knob, there's a little bit of modulation. So this LFO here is changing where this knob is, but it's doing it automatically. Now what I've done is I've drawn in this shape, and this is kind of backwards. I wouldn't normally do it like this, but for whatever reason I did. The modulation on this parameter here is going backwards. So it starts here, and so that is like the bottom point, and then this bit is the highest point, so it kind of goes backwards. When this is high, this is actually low, and vice versa. I wouldn't normally do it that way. I'd normally do it the other way, just so it's a bit more obvious to see, but for some reason, whenever I made this sound, this is how I did it. You will see this sort of moves down when this goes up. And you can kind of do whatever you want with this. I just set this so that it fits the song and sort of the tempo and the way that we wanted the song to sound. But you can do this however you want. All you do, just click and drag and draw in whatever shapes you want, which is kind of cool. And then you just double click them to get rid of them. Cool. Also in here we got a sub oscillator that's just pitched down, adding like some fat low end. If I go into the effects section of Serum, you'll see there's only a few effects in here. We've got hyper, distortion and filter. If I turn these off, the hyper, what that's doing is taking the whole sound, adding more voices, and then detuning them, the same as sort of you did in the oscillators. This is to add more of that Reese characteristic. Some distortion, just to kind of add some grit. And then the last one is this filter, which is the Combs filter. Now what this does is adds a bunch of little notches into the sort of EQ spectrum of this sound, and then you can move those notches up and down all together. So I've set this LFO to the cutoff, and that's going to move those notches and add a very sort of metallic sound. If I turn this all the way up, it's that, but just a little bit less. If you turn the mix knob down, you're going to get less of the effect. Outside of Serum, we've got an EQ. This is just to help it sit in the mix a bit more, cut some of the mids, cut some of the highs. And then after that, I've put the fat rack on it. Now, if you don't know what the fat rack is, it's sort of inspired by something that Virtual Riot did a while ago, where you got a bunch of distortion plugins, turn them up a little bit and stack them all on top of each other. This is a similar idea, but it's approached in a different way. Effectively, it's just a bunch of OTTs stacked on top of each other. So without it, it sounds like this. And with it,
just makes it sound very, very way more stronger.
And that's pretty much it. After that, there's just some more EQs and some filters just to sort of add a bit of variation throughout the track. But that's kind of it. Pretty simple patch. Sounds really complicated, but isn't. It's basically just two Reese Basses FMing each other with a bit of movement, some LFO stuff. So yeah, if you got any questions, like, give us a shout, drop a comment. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. If you do use this patch in any of your tracks, let us know. Or send us a message on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. It'd be really cool to hear what you come up with. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I will catch you next time.